Police arrest 5 teenagers in Australia as they plan out an ISIS-inspired terrorist attack. A Chinese journalist is sentenced for leaking documents. Plus, police clash with protesters here in Seoul over the Sewol as problems mount for Park's administration. These stories are coming up next. This is the Asia Brief. Here we are, my friends, once more. It is Monday, April 20th, 2015. My name is Steve Miller, and it is my pleasure to have you here with me today. Let's go ahead and get started with our very first story. Police in Australia arrested 5 teenagers suspected of plotting a terrorist attack inspired by the Islamic State. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott, speaking at a news conference this past weekend, said, "The act that we believe was in preparation involved attacks against police officers on ANZAC Day." Those not familiar with this national holiday, ANZAC stands for Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. The April 25th holiday commemorates the troops landing on Gallipoli during World War I. This year marks the centennial remembrance. Quote, "At this stage, we have no information that it was a planned beheading, but there was reference to an attack on police. Some evidence that we have collected at a couple of the scenes and some other information we have leads us to believe this particular matter was ISIS-inspired," said Neil Coggan, acting Deputy Commissioner of the Australian Federal Police. Prime Minister Tony Abbott noted that the teens' activity had been monitored for months and urged everyone to continue to go about their daily lives. Those arrested Saturday were all either 18 or 19, and had links to another IS supporter who was shot and killed last year by authorities. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I hate living in a surveillance state. I hate the fact that we live in a world today where our government reads our emails, listens to our phone communications, even if it's just on a cursory level to look for keywords. But when you hear about events like this, it doesn't help but to make their case valid. It also reinforces the fear that many in Australia have about remote radicalization. But Tony Abbott was right about one thing. The greatest act of defiance one can show these types of individuals is to go about and have a great time, to go out and have a great ANZAC Day. Do not let this planned attack affect you. This past Friday, a Chinese court sentenced a journalist to 7 years in prison for leaking an internal Communist Party document to a foreign website. Gao Yu was tried behind closed doors this past November and was convicted of providing state secrets to foreign contacts. She denies the allegations, but that didn't matter. The document warned against the spread of Western democracy, universal values, civil rights, and press freedom. The party feels threatened by these beliefs and quashes them at every turn. Gao's lawyers indicated they will appeal the sentence, but it's doubtful the outcome will change. Gao previously spent 14 months in prison after writing articles in support of the students at Tiananmen Square in 1989. Then, in 1994, she was sentenced to 6 years in prison for leaking secrets to Hong Kong media. William Nee of Amnesty International condemned the ruling, saying, quote, "This deplorable sentence against Gao Yu is nothing more than blatant political persecution by the Chinese authorities. She is the victim of vaguely worded and arbitrary state secret laws that are used against activists as part of the authorities' attack on freedom of expression." End quote. Now, personally, I do believe this is a very heavy-handed response by the Communist Party, but let's also be honest. Gao Yu knew exactly what she was doing. After all, this was the 3rd time she had leaked sensitive information about the Communist Party to foreign websites, foreign media. She knew it was coming down the pipeline. She went into this knowing that she would end up behind bars. After skipping town on the anniversary of the Sewol ferry sinking, the political problems for South Korean President Park Geun-hye continue to mount, and I'm not just talking about her plummeting approval rating. First, police clashed with thousands of protesters on Saturday as they tried to march to the Blue House, or the presidential residence. Authorities relied on using water cannons and pepper spray to subdue the crowd. According to Yonhap News, 20 demonstrators were arrested. The demonstrations began around midday, forcing the closure of several areas as those assembled called for an independent investigation into the ferry sinking. More protests are actually scheduled for next weekend. Also leading the charge of bad news for President Park is a deepening bribery scandal. Those investigating have now uncovered a new 30-page secret document with 14 additional names, including 8 from the main opposition party. Park said she will determine the fate of her newly installed prime minister when she returns from her overseas trip. However, Representative Moon Jae-in, chair of the New Politics Alliance for Democracy, threatened to impeach the prime minister this week. The ruling Saenuri Party opposes such measures, urging the NPAD to wait for Park's return and her decision. I mentioned last week that President Park Geun-hye opting to leave South Korea for diplomatic missions was a bad idea. I said her popularity would tank, and you know what? It has. It's already dropped more than 5 percentage points. Her behavior is anything but presidential, and some have said it's almost akin to abandonment. In my opinion, there is absolutely no way she can recover from this. In effect, her presidency is done. However, I do have a theory. Sometime in the near future, after she returns, there will be some kind of diversionary event to take the focus away from her, to take the focus away from the bribery scandal, and to take away the focus from the mismanagement of the investigation into the Sewol. We've seen it before in South Korea, and you know what? We will see it again. Well, my friends, those are today's stories. I hope you'll take a moment to leave your thoughts in the comments on Facebook or Twitter. To keep up with more news from the region, please follow Asian News Weekly on Facebook or Twitter. You can also send an email to the show with your questions, your comments, and most importantly, your feedback. That email address is podcast@asiannewsweekly.net. If you enjoyed today's program, please share it with your friends. And if you haven't, subscribe. You can do that on our website, asiannewsweekly.net, or in your favorite podcast application like iTunes or Stitcher. It's free, easy to do, and when you do so, the next episode is delivered automatically to you. Well, my friends, that's all my time today. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, my name is Steve Miller, reminding you to be true to yourself and to always be awesome.